So you know when you go to a car show or a car meet and you have those introductory conversations amongst car folks, we always try to identify ourselves. I'm a pickup truck guy, I'm a Porsche guy, I'm a Camaro guy. Big question I've always had is, what if you don't want to be a specific guy? What do you do then? Before you and I dive off too far into the weeds, we first have to understand what the hell is this thing? Because it's not really just a pickup truck, and it's not really just an SUV, which begs the question, what is it based on in the Hyundai world? And they're very hard to admit this. As a proud Arizona State Sun Devil, it is based on the Tucson, which in itself is not a real SUV. It is a front-wheel drive based crossover, which tells us a lot of what's going on underneath the vehicle. Struts in the front, multi-link in the rear, on offer as front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, still front-wheel drive biased. Then of course there's kind of a basic engine, that naturally aspirated 2.5 direct injected and multi-point injection 4-cylinder engine. That in a Tucson, at least a 2022 Tucson, 187 horsepower, 178 pound-feet of torque. However, the folks at Hyundai tell me they're gunning for over 190 horsepower and over 180 pound-feet of torque. In terms of a transmission there, it would be an 8-speed torque converter automatic. Now that we understand what it is and what it is based on, let's press on to something far more interesting. Remember that 2.5 turbocharged 4 we drove in the Hyundai Sonata N-Line, the Kia K5 GT, and practically every Genesis? That is going to make its way to the Hyundai Santa Cruz. Now the folks at Hyundai, they're being very cagey about the output figures. They're saying 275 horsepower or more, 310 pound-feet of torque or more, but you and I have seen that engine in different states of tune. In the Hyundai Sonata N-Line, 290 horsepower, and in the Genesis, 300 horsepower. Pretty much all of them are 311 pound-feet of torque. Now that we understand what's underneath the hood, there is one other interesting item making the trip to the Santa Cruz, and that would be the 8-speed wet dual-clutch transmission. This is unique for a couple of reasons. Number one, it is designed, engineered, and manufactured in-house by the Hyundai Kia Group. Number two, it is a wet dual-clutch transmission. Why is that important to you and I? Well, it has its own transmission oil cooler, and that really translates to two things. Number one, a little better reliability in terms of over the longer haul. And number two, it handles the higher performance of the extra torque and horsepower of the 2.5 turbo. Now, in advance of driving the Hyundai Santa Cruz, which I believe is going to be in July, you and I have already experienced the 2.5 turbo with the 8-speed wet dual-clutch transmission in many different carrying cases from the Hyundai Kia Group. Go check out those episodes before July. Now we got to focus on timing. Why are we seeing this thing now when they showed us concepts of it like 5-6 years ago? Well, the answer there, and this is me kind of guessing, they always knew they were going to base it on the Tucson, but in 2015, 2016, by the time they got the thing in production, they probably would have had 2, maybe 3 years left on the product cycle of that generation of Hyundai Tucson. Now, if I'm reading the tea leaves correctly, someone at Hyundai stopped, scratched their head and said, wait a minute, we're going to put all this time, money, and work into a totally new car, into a segment we have no history in and no demonstrated success. Perhaps we should slow down a little bit, wait until we change over one of our really successful platforms, use that as the basis for this totally new car, save some shekels in the process. This way, we might have a better shot at 2 successful vehicles rather than taking a gamble on one vehicle that could either be a complete success or a complete flop. As a business owner, I completely appreciate the strategic prudence. So most of you guys already know this about me, but I have all the practicality of a 3-year-old, yet even I understand the business end of this mashup of a station wagon, an SUV, and a pickup truck would be back here. And there's some unique party tricks that both Kumo and I would appreciate. Obviously, the first thing is it's a pickup truck back here. This is nothing new, but it has a bed liner fitted to the vehicle from the factory. I can't honestly tell you if it's fitted as standard to all trim levels because this one is the most fancy one. And it's a bed liner that has a roll top cover. And then once we have the bed fully open, that's where it reveals all the party tricks. The first would be a super double secret storage chamber back here. Yeah, tools, dog food, that kind of stuff. But for those that kind of go out and camp with it, this can be an ice chest. There is a drain plug back here. Very neat touch. I know Kuma would appreciate that. And then there are two other storage compartments, one on each side. However, this one over here has a 110 plug here. And then there are rails on each side, so tie downs, that kind of stuff. And then overall, this thing can kind of button up the same way it opened. This one's a little bit more cumbersome to get the thing closed. So to me, the big question here, what's the use case? And I don't mean the whole vehicle, rather the business end back here. Now, yeah, there is the whole camping idea, but shocker of shockers, not all of us are campers. To me, camping is checking into a hotel, not getting upgraded. Rather, I see this as unique for people who are fans of fur kids. Now, I personally wouldn't put Kumo back here. I'd put him in the back seat. But there's a lot of usability back here because he and I are distance runners. So there's opportunities for us to go out to a new trail and then have some refreshments back here, as well as bring other stuff that we normally wouldn't, say in a GT3. So yes, outside may be rather unusual, but inside it is pretty much standard fare Hyundai, which is to say a good thing. In this specific application, it has been pilfered directly from the all-new Tucson, which you and I will be discussing in the next episode. So most of this is what we've seen in other Hyundais in terms of switchgear. However, there's some bits that are reminiscent from the Elantra we drove recently, mainly in texture and color and trim. Would love to see some of those changed. However, they did something interesting here where they've got this unique textured dashboard as well as on the door panels. Perhaps make that go throughout the entire door panel and the middle part of the dashboard. However, what's really unique about the interior is the packaging in the rear. The seat doesn't fold down, rather it folds up like a Honda Fit. Then that reveals a tray underneath the seat that's good for packaging small items. That can be removed so one can package large flat boxes inside the vehicle. And so we arrive again at the difficult point of one of these world premiere episodes. Trying to convey the size of a vehicle you have never before seen in person. This one's a bit more challenging than most because it's not really any one thing or one type of vehicle. Best basis of comparison I could find was a Toyota Tacoma. I know that one is a real pickup truck, so it's not a direct comparison. So as a backup, the Honda Ridgeline. And there, that contains the biggest surprise about the Hyundai Santa Cruz. Let's start with the length. The Toyota Tacoma is 17 inches longer than the Hyundai Santa Cruz. The Ridgeline is 15 inches longer. In terms of wheelbase, that is the usable space you can package people and dogs. The Toyota is 10 inches longer and the Honda is 8 inches longer. Okay, so that's all fine and good, but what does that mean to you and I? Answer, it is significantly more compact than the design conveys. Now, speaking of design, let's have that conversation. But first, I need to give you a little bit of inside Hyundai baseball. Remember 10 years ago, you and I went behind the scenes at Hyundai and we built a concept car from start to finish for the 2011 Detroit Auto Show. We met a number of designers on that project. However, there was one that really stood out. He was the guy that sketched the interior for the curb concept. And in that episode, I said, this kid is going places. He's going to be a boss one day. Well, I don't want to say I told you so, but I told you so. Well, his name is Bradley Arnold, and he is the design manager for the Hyundai Santa Cruz. So he's kind of the reason why this thing looks the way it does. Speaking of, the concept car had this very cool daylight opening that kind of hid the rear doors. It looked like a two-door, kind of like the curb concept did. However, this one is more traditional. They've got 4 doors. It looks like a 4-door pickup truck. To me, it's closer to a Ridgeline in design than, say, a Toyota or a Nissan. Now, yes, I do take my hat off to Brad and the gang for adapting at least some of the more successful proportions from the concept car to the production vehicle. Now, what exactly do I mean by more successful proportions? Well, if you look at it from a profile or a plan view, it's mainly cab. Translated, there are very short overhangs both front as well as rear, meaning that bed is kind of short. So this really isn't the replacement for a pickup. It's more for an active lifestyle, but overall it's got this unique look to it because it doesn't have this like out of balance look of a long bed with a short nose. And we do have to go back to the timing we talked about at the top of the episode, waiting for the new Tucson to come out. That, I believe, was a good strategy, not just on product planning, but for design as well. If you look at the new Tucson, they've gone with this very geometric shape throughout the front and sides of the vehicle. It gives it more dimension. It's not really an organic looking vehicle. They've adapted some of that to the production version of the Santa Cruz. You can specifically see it in the front doors as well as the front of the vehicle. Now there is one design detail that you and I did not see today. The car that was in studio, I'm told, is the fanciest one on offer, will be the most expensive, and as such has the largest 20-inch wheel. However, there is talk that there will be an off-road wheel. No, this is not something you're going to take to Moab and do rock crawling with. However, there will be an 18-inch wheel on offer. I'd be interested to see this design with a smaller wheel and more sidewall. Okay, so being the specific car that you and I spent some time with today is a very early pre-production prototype. So early, it is literally plugged into a wall to get its power. It would be foolish to provide some feedback via the wish list. However, I do want to provide one usable idea in the wish list, and that is for the all-wheel drive system. I love the fact that this thing has the more powerful 2.5 turbo with the 8-speed dual clutch. I really don't think people are going to take this thing off-road, really serious off-roading. You can do some soft-roading with this. So this engine transmission is fine. However, can we make a change to the all-wheel drive system where the majority of the torque goes to the rear wheels and changes the driving dynamics of the Santa Cruz from the Tucson so it drives more like a truck than it does a car? Well, a car in traffic, lovely. But when I'm driving down the road, I want to have something that's a bit more hairy chest is probably the best way to put it. That's my ask. And this is the point of the episode where I turn this around to you guys to opine in the comments below or via our social media, MOTOMAN TV, all one word, MOTOMAN TV, all one word, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And with that, another huge congratulations to Brad and the team for making something that didn't exist at a multinational company like Hyundai exist. Until I see you in the next episode, bis später.